on the work you've done with the New South Wales government in relation to transport, trains, buses coming from the Highlands, from Sydney itself.
So Richard started my Judy's bus episode. Our trains, unfortunately, have been neglected for years and years and years. And it's going to take some of those years to get them back and make that train line reliable again. We're doing some work on that, we're getting some funding for that, but it can't happen quick enough. So actually what we're doing is asking for a couple of buses that will be express buses that actually travel from here, and we can do lots of argument about where they go and what they do, but we can get people reliably to other stations such as Glenfield along the way, so we know that you can get there during your time to go to school or university or medical appointments. And when we get a really reliable train service, we can get rid of the buses. We can use those buses, and obviously we've got other areas that need buses to come in. Collavale and Hilltop don't have any public transport of a weekend, so there's a lot of argument about that. But the buses, the express buses, can actually get there before the trains. And especially in the circumstances we have at the moment, the trains are just not reliable. It's the most emails I get are about the train service.
Thank you, Judy. Next question. Thank you. Monica?
Sorry, I don't have a very strong voice, so I hope you can hear me, the people I'm asking a question about. First of all, thank you so much, Judy, for coming all the way down. We so appreciate it, and we appreciate you. So the first thing is not a question, but it will lead to a question for Patty, and that is, I used to work at the Bradman Museum for many years, in cultural projects, and how many people here know that Don Bradman's ashes are actually buried at the Bradman Museum? Show of hands. 2 people. 3, 4. There you go, 5 if you include my husband. So a lot of people don't know that, and that was his dying wish, that his ashes be combined with his wife, Lady Bradman. She died just a few years earlier, and they were buried there. And a lot of people don't know. There's so much about the region, not just Bradman Museum and the history of cricket, and of course our social history in Australia as well, in that time that he was alive, that there are a lot of people that worked with the Bradman Museum who were extraordinary historians, marketers, and they and other things as well. And they have moved on because they felt very frustrated working with the local council and also a board of directors, respectfully, that didn't live in the area. So they would be really good to, and they live in this area, they would be great to pull together and say, what are the things that we can actually look at and see if we can actually rebuild our identity and the things that make us really rich and strong in this area that is unique, like the Blue Mountains with the Three Sisters, for example, or Uluru. We do have that here in the Southern Highlands, and we have a really rich history, so I'd be more than happy to help at any point draw those people together and bring them to you and the council. I've got a question to do with the flood. I don't know a lot about flooding. It's just not in my sphere of skill or anything like that. But just a question, the flood mitigation studies that were done, were they just based on the flooding as it happens now? Or did they take into consideration throwing 3,000 plus extra homes, bitumen, rooftops, and having that on top of the flooding that already happens at the moment? That's my first question to the people that are involved in this and looked at all the studies, and what that would look like as an extra on top of the current flooding. And the other thing is the flooding studies only based just on that area that they're looking at developing? Because
I'll just jump in on, because my little brain's starting to forget some of the points. Can I just jump in on one on the flooding point, and then I think John's your person to answer the flooding. I had a discussion with someone at Hawkesbury the other day
Yeah.
about Barrel South, and the comment that was made was don't do it, because they did something similar there where the developers promised them that we'll build it up and it'll all be fine. Well, it rained, a 1 in 100 year came, and I think it was 13 people lost their lives, and 400-ish homes were basically lost. So you can build up as much as you like, but the water will go somewhere, and it will be for the people further downstream. That's the problem that the developers, in my view, don't really care about. But I might pass you to John for flooding. Sorry, Judy.
Just before John answers the question, remember Barrel South, I don't believe we have developers, we have landowners, and they're, from what I can see, not doing anything, it's your council.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And that's a great point, because it's not, as Judy says, this is not developer-led. It's not that, and I should have said this, it's a great point. This is not the State Council forcing this upon the Southern Highlands. This is council forcing it upon the Southern Highlands. We just need to really understand that. When you hear some people say it's the state, it's not the state.
And it was 4,000 homes lost.
4,000 homes lost. There you go.
The issue with the council-led investigations and other things is that it exposes not only the council but obviously ratepayers. And we've always said from day one that if they are proposing developments of 2,000 odd homes or more, and for whatever reason that can't be achieved, then they have misled the property owners, they've misled the development industry, and of course they've misled the ratepayers. So there's a huge, sort of ramifications coming out of this. That's why we're so pedantic and saying, well, look, if the state government has told you on 4 different occasions that there are issues with your flood studies and the way in which you're going about this analysis, then surely, it's time to stop, regroup, think about, what are the other options. Now, we've been in several meetings with the mayor, councillors, and I asked the general manager, why is there a fixation with Barrel South? It is a very complex proposal, and you've got 6 odd sites that you've identified in your housing strategy. Why don't we move to the next one and give people an opportunity to think this through a bit more? And there was no answer to that, and that's disturbing because it just seems to be this hell-bent. We've got to do it for whatever reason, and it just mystifies everyone. But in the group tonight, and I won't point them out, but there are 2 very experienced engineers, and you listen to some of the ways in which they've, through their experience, telling us what is likely to happen if this goes ahead, and no one would rest easily listening to those stories.
We'll have one last question for tonight, thank you.
What about Anna down the back? Can't let Anna go.
Okay. Anna, you go first, followed by Anna, and then followed by Barry, and then we'll have you pass.
Very quickly.
Quickly, please.
I wondered if there is a synopsis of any of the talks that have been given, because I think they were very meaty for a person who's never been to anything like this before. A lot to kind of take on, and I'd like to be able to I wish I'd taken notes all the way.
Yeah. We are videotaped tonight. It was my first attempt. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, but if the video is successful, we'll put it up on Facebook. And no doubt, this is the first of many more South Barrel meetings. This is just the beginning. Thank you. Anna, question, please.
I guess my question is probably to Judy, but if it's our council that's driving this, is there someone in government that can almost tell the council, game over? I don't get it. How can they do that?
So every time I talk to planning, they actually say they don't know anything really about it at this point. council, they're doing their own thing and they don't have it to talk to me about it or anything. I probably after tonight will make another speech about it and about this evening. It's not at state government level. It's just, as I said, it hasn't gone through any of those stages. Can't understand it.
So in a way, who's the council responsible to about this development? To us, as the ratepayers?
To the ratepayers.
Okay, right.
So, just a couple of other points. You forget about, we just did a lot of filming today. We are going to get that train through, the tourism train through to Hilltop and Collar Vale. We were out there today. But the other thing is that a lot of other areas have a tourist group, either run by council or a specific group, that, for example, if people caught the tourism train down here, then they'd have a bus going to XYZ, and somebody, and I know Richard over here's done different things with Horizontal Festival, but somebody who coordinates so that if people come here for one thing, they stay for a whole lot of other things.
Yep.
We have the most beautiful area going and so many opportunities. We've got the new airport coming where people will be able to come out for a day and come down here. But somebody needs to coordinate all that tourism. Usually it's the councils, but it can be somebody else that does that coordination. But there are multiple groups out there trying to do something, but it just needs to be coordinated.
Another one, Judy, is the picnic train, New South Wales, that Transport Heritage New South Wales usually runs that.
The train,
So, yeah.
everything like that. I mean, you know, maybe we could give them little vials of dirt from the Oval or something, you know. There's so many things that could be done, but it needs coordination.
Barry?
My question is, how can we find out why this development is being pushed as it is? Okay, the background to me is I've been a developer for 55 years and I've got a degree in architecture. I'm on Council's floodplain committee. This matter came up in September. An agenda was sent to us which I couldn't open. I went to the meeting and said, can you give me a copy of the report? No. Can you give me a computer to look at it on? No. And all I could do was sit and listen to the guy from Maker make the submissions. Now, thankfully, things he said, and with my knowledge, I was able to put in place some conditions and things that I didn't think that they could jump through. And Fiona, I think, who's here, was instrumental in supporting those submissions that we made. Now, that got adopted by Council at the October meeting. And they've now gone back, and I've had a read today of the report that's in, of what we've got to consider next Monday. What they've done to get round the problem is council officers have prepared a plan raising the levels of the land so that they get them out of the flood areas and then ask Maker to do a report in relation to that. The other thing I've picked up so far is that the overland flows through the development are not, they flow into the river, but the river's not taken as if it's got the overflow out of the reservoir. Now that means that they have done figures on the flow through the river, and if you had the overland flows going through the site into the river that had the water coming out of the reservoir, then there would be more flooding. So it's a whole situation, and I've never seen it in 55 years. Well, I've seen certain things where corruption's involved, but I've never seen a council so determined and council officers so determined to make this development happen and to do it in ways that are quite bizarre. I mean, in terms of Judy's comment about the landowners, there is 3 property developers that own land there. That's quite, and they're significant property developers. So there's something going on that I've never seen before, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen. I mean, what Patty said about 10 acre lots is probably, which is like what's opposite the Briars, is probably what it should be. But somehow we need to get to the bottom of why this thing is being pushed in the way it's being pushed.
Yes.
Now, how that inquiry can be, I don't know, but yeah, that's my question as to how we can get the vote, because I've never encountered somebody refusing me access to a document that I'm there to as a community representative, refusing to give me copies to look at, refusing to give me a laptop to see on a laptop, and basically trying to sterilise my view. I've never seen this sort of thing happen, and you know, the requirements of what we put out there are what they were trying to fudge through. I mean, they had a 1-100 flood study. So you turn around and you said to the guy, okay, you won the 100. What have you based the Barrel South land on? Oh, we based it on agricultural land. What would happen if you based it on urban land? Oh, it'd be much higher. I said, thanks very much. You know, so then you turn around and they said they wanted flood levels, a climate change thing. So we went along with the climate change figure that they want, which is about mid-range. They then said they wanted 875 millimetres flood level above the 1 in 100 and against the river, and 525, I think it was, against the, you know, up in the sites where the overland flow paths come through. But they were looking for those flood levels to be against the 1 in 100 as it was assessed as agricultural land.
Do you want to chair that?
Yeah.
So what happened next is I turned around and said, no, those flood levels, we'll give you those flood levels, but they've got to be against the determination of it as urban land. Now they've gone through and tried to do this now they couldn't get over what we put in place. They haven't complied with the planning circular. They're saying they kind of have, but they haven't. But then when you get to it, in blank, you know, Maker are professionals. Maker have turned around and said in black and white, we worked on a plan given to us by council that shows filling of the land. Now, that's not allowable under floodplain management. You can't fill the land and then do the study after the top of that. You know, I mean, who's driving this and what's the reason it's being driven? It's just bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Okay. Let's go to your first question, Barry. Sorry.
Can I just suggest to Barry, next Monday, Barry, if you could give us some help in pushing the issue of a written or confirmation from Water New South Wales, DQ and dam safety.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All of their requirements.
Receiving that. You know, they're not looking to listen to us. I mean, we've got to try and push back, and it's going to, you know, we've got to spend a lot of time to go through to get the information to be able to push back. I think it's there.
In the 4 years that we've
But
been back.
you know, you've got to remember the October meeting last year, Jesse Fitzpatrick stood up and said, we don't have to take any notice of the floodplain region. Sarah will bear that out. That's what he said.
That's
So
shocking.
you know, the push is on to get this through.
Yes.
And why is that push there when you know it's not being
$1 billion profit in it.
you know where is the profit going and who's behind it?
Would Judy like to comment? Judy? We'll get Judy to comment and then we'll go to your question.
So I guess, and this probably sounds like an ad and it's not meant to be an ad, but re-election is up in March. But I worry because before I was elected, and I believe before the councillors went to an election, they were told that Barrel South was a done deal. And there was nothing you could do about it. And so that's why, with the political world that we have out there, you just never know what will happen. And I'm concerned because I don't believe it's a done deal at all. But I worry that that's a possibility.
Could I just answer to your...
Let Jeff talk.
I just answer to your question, what can we do? My background is in project management, with a big project management company. I would suggest make contact with the Insurance Council of Australia and get them to advocate against the development, that they will not insure any property on that land. And that will put a very big stop to any developer moving forward.
Thank you. One last question. Thank you. One last question for tonight.
So this is a question that you already have heard, you guys up there. John and David and I have witnessed a data set that showed an outlier which showed a much higher flood level than it's been recorded in the WMA water report, which will totally skew what the flood levels are. When will someone ask a question to someone, when are you going to place all that data information for that outlier and see what happens to the final flood level? Because what's being tailored now is not the actual factual flood level.
I just, the other thing was, after I made that speech in Parliament, I got a letter from someone, high up anyway, and it had 1.5 pages, maybe nearly 2 pages, of questions I had to answer about Bowral South. And my response when I made it was, these are questions that you need to answer. Not, I don't need to answer the questions, you need to answer those particular questions you're asking me. So, you know, they know that there are a lot of questions about it. And, just frustration.
Why can't we get WMA Water to produce and hand over their data set to, there's a couple of engineers in this room and other people, and we'll see if we test that data set whether what they've said, the flood levels, is the same as what would come out if you put that outlier in it.
Well, the question I can ask on Monday is that council's new floodplain manager, bloke by the name of Reese, I don't know his last name, but he is
Jones.
He is the ex-water, WMA water.
That's right.
So he would know that. He would know that document exists, and I'll ask him the question. You know, because I don't know why he's been employed, but they got rid of the other Shah who was there, and this guy's come in, and he's the guy that prepared the WMA report, and he doesn't like being tackled, I can tell you that.
He's been put on specifically about Bowral South. I do believe he's the man, so they have somebody they've employed specifically to move Bowral South. So I'm not convinced that's the route.
Well, we'll have one last question. We'll just squeeze one last question in.
You know, first of all, they're not even thinking about the First Nations people of Gundungurra country here. Yeah? So, you know, we're on Gundungurra country. That whole water all out there is actually connected through our dreaming stories to Gurrungutch. It's also connected to our traditional law. So, you know, breaking that spiritually, you're breaking all of our people, you know, that have been here since the beginning of time. That law will be broken. We've had enough trauma in our life without them destroying that site. So that waterway is connected right through everywhere, all through Gundungurra country, right up to the Blue Mountains. That dreaming story is Gurrungutch. You know, that land needs to be protected.
Thanks, Trish. The final question.
It's just a very quick one. The petition that you have, how many signatures does that need to go forward?
Jeff?
Yeah. Sorry. It needs 10,000 written, signed on paper. If we were to do it on electronically, it's 20,000. But we're aiming for 10,000. We're already getting a lot of movement because they know that that's out there. So yes, we're getting movement already. We need lots of help. We've got a fair bit of time because it probably doesn't need to go in until the I part is in sort of February. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Now, before you go, we have a prize tonight. We have a bottle of sangria tonight. But to be eligible for the draw,